In my old apartment, I lived alone, and I had a pretty set routine for getting ready in the morning. After I took a shower, I'd always hang my towel up in exactly the same spot, so that the next day I'd know where it was. But one day, I took a shower and my towel wasn't where I always put it. It was hanging on a hook that I had never used, because if you hang a towel on a hook, it won't dry properly and start to smell. So that was weird, but there's a first time for everything, so I went to work and didn't think much of it. That night, I made dinner, and while I was cleaning my dishes, I noticed that my drying rack was rotated 90 degrees, which also didn't make sense because it wouldn't drain if it wasn't angled toward the sink. So either I was going crazy or someone was coming into my apartment while I was at work. Remember, I lived alone. The landlord is supposed to give me 24 hours notice before entering, but an old tenant could have a copy of my key. Any number of people might have access to my apartment. I know I didn't put my towel on that hook. I know I didn't rotate the drying rack. So, on the slim chance that someone was intruding, I plugged a webcam into this really tiny computer I had laying around and hid it. If someone came in, the camera would detect the motion and take a picture. I expected the pictures folder to be empty when I got home from work the next day, but when I plugged the tiny computer into my TV, I was greeted by a screen filled with image files. I immediately clicked the first one, and a second or two later, the image viewer opened, showing me a grainy view of my kitchen and entryway. I pressed the arrow key, and a second or two later, the next picture loaded. This little computer was excruciatingly slow, so I just kept hitting the arrow key, and one by one, each snapshot showed for a few seconds before moving on. At first, I was worried by the sheer number of pictures it had taken, but I realized that the motion it had detected was just shadows changing during the day. So I kept going, one by one. There were a ton of pictures to go through, and I wanted to see all of them. That's when I noticed the front door start to open and a dark figure come into the entryway just around the corner from the camera. I felt the blood drain from my face. Someone was coming into my apartment. I started slamming the arrow key as fast as I could, but the tiny computer couldn't keep up. One by one, each frame showed someone hovering by the door, too dark to make out. They stood there for what seemed like an eternity. I was honestly terrified. Little by little, the person starts to round the corner, but the hallway was too dark for the crappy webcam to see any detail, and the cheap computer was making the whole thing super slow-mo. I was slamming the arrow key as fast as I could, practically shouting at the TV, "Who are you?" Someone was coming into my apartment, and I was terrified. Finally, they make it to the light, and I get a good look at their face. It was just me, coming home from work. Now, I think we've all had those moments where something isn't where you remember leaving it, and you think, did I put that there? The only difference is, not everyone has a motion-sensitive webcam just laying around. So you're probably wondering what actually happened. And the truth is, I'm just a big dumb idiot, okay? Thanks for watching. But now I have something real serious to talk to you about. I recently got a profile on famousbirthdays.com, and I want to meet one of my friends who also has a profile. Now, I'm not going to tell you who it is because I don't want you to go boost him. I need you to go to the link in the description and click the—
Tim, what are you doing? We had a deal!
Adam, what are you doing here?
Nobody listen to him. Go to my profile and boost me.
This is my channel. Don't listen to him.
No, come here. You made a promise.
Come here.
Get over here.
Stop it.